Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the chance to contribute to this very important bill, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill Bill of 2023. Mr. Speaker, the fact that the bill is called Coordination Bill tells you that there is a need that arose to coordinate certain organs and instruments of government, Mr. Speaker, and that's why they found the need to bring together this particular bill. In fact, many members will soon realize, Mr. Speaker, that this is not a very elaborate or long bill. Despite the fact that it appears long and lengthy, the greater part of the bill are actually what you call subsequent amendments or consequential amendments, Mr. Speaker, thanks to what the bill is trying to achieve. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I will appreciate the work that was done by the majority whip in moving the bill, Mr. Speaker, and guiding the House on the importance of this particular bill, the food and feed safety. It is important, Mr. Speaker, to control what Kenyans eat, because, Madam Speaker, sorry, I had not realized of a change.
You must always note the gender of the Speaker as it transitions.
I have just realized, and you know, I'm a big supporter of the gender movement in this country, Mr. Speaker, and my credentials are not in question. So it's just that I had not noticed that there had been a change. Therefore, Madam Speaker, this particular act of bill of Parliament that is before us for consideration, Mr. Speaker, speaks to the need for us as a country.
Once again, not Mr. Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I keep forgetting. But I'll get it right along the way. And thank you for reminding me. If I make the same mistake, remind me once more until I get it right, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this bill addresses a very important need in our society. The need to ensure that whatever Kenyans are eating is actually certified and passes the test of what good food should encompass. Madam Speaker, many times Kenyans ask us that why is it that in the past many people who live to be 80, 90, 100, yet nowadays to get people to live past the good age of 80 is something extremely difficult. There are diseases that are coming up so frequently and being reported, cancer being just one of them, Madam Speaker, and people are beginning to question, is this something to do with our feeding habits and so on and so forth. Therefore, such an important bill that sets into place the exercise of coordinating all these food and feed safety authorities actually, Madam Speaker, because the bill speaks to an authority or a body called competent authority, and it's defined in the requisite pages of the bill, Madam Speaker, on what a competent authority is. That a competent authority means the public institutions responsible for official control set out in the first schedule or such other public entity as the Cabinet Secretary may, by order of Gazette, determine. Madam Speaker, in the closing parts of the bill, those such institutions, those that at least presently exist, the Dairy Board, fertilizer, and so on and so forth, Madam Speaker. Extremely important public institutions, which in the absence of a body or an office that overall coordinates all the activities, it's easy for a lot of the things to fall in through the racks and nobody to actually keenly check and see what is it that is being done by these agencies that is not in sync with what the government or what an administration is supposed to do. In fact, Madam Speaker, I have problems with this bill in its architecture, though I agree largely with the fact that there is need for an overall coordinating body for all these competent authorities that look into the safety of the what Kenyans are eating, Madam Speaker. It is my strong suggestion, and perhaps after we have set up this office, we would wish to compare with other jurisdictions. I know, Madam Speaker, by watching and by practice, that in other jurisdictions, what they do is that all these institutions actually are housed, and together with those of drugs, because you cannot separate actually, because it's what human beings consume, and that's why you'll find I don't know which particular jurisdiction I can cite off the top of my mind, but I know that Food and Drug Authority for example, I think in the US and such countries, Madam Speaker, they are all coordinated under one roof, so that you have various departments that handle, as opposed to this silo mentality that I continue to see. In fact, this bill solves part of the problem, but it still further creates a problem that I see with government of Kenya and how it's organized. This silo mentality of ensuring that you only have one institution looking out for a particular aspect. Yet, it is you could argue either way, because of course, others have presented an argument, Madam Speaker, before that. What if you have structural failure in that particular institution, to the sense that the person leading it, and you have it rest, you have vested the authority of that particular institution in one hand, let's say in the person of the Director General, then it brings challenges, because all their inefficiencies and incompetence are shared across all these other institutions, as opposed to you can have maybe the people in charge of the drugs. If there are institutional weaknesses or competence in the person leading that institution, at least it doesn't affect the food. But I still contend and hold the view, Madam Speaker, that the benefits of having all of them housed under one roof far outweighs what will be the disadvantages of, or the advantages of having them separated, Madam Speaker. And I will be pursuing these thoughts later with the responsible and competent authorities, so that we can find a way of bringing together all these institutions that take care of what we eat in terms of food and medicine in this country, Madam Speaker, so that there is better coordination. But at least this, I can confidently say before the House that this is a step in the right direction. Therefore, Madam Speaker, you will notice that Section 4 of the Act speaks of providing actually for competent authority and every person who's coordinating food business and feeding business. Of course, this Act speaks to those that are involved in this particular trade and industry and what they need to do, and how the office actually of the food controller, office of the food safety controller, Madam Speaker, will be devolved and provide the necessary provisions to ensure that what Kenyans are eating is tested and is safe and sound, so that if it is about the things, perhaps the fertilizer, part of the institutions actually, Madam Speaker, that are cited as being a competent authority is a fertilizer control, and this is something that we have spoken about. In fact, last Parliament, if I remember, one of our colleagues in the National Assembly really tried to push the issue of Roundup, something that has been discussed in many parliaments around the world and its effect. Yet, unfortunately, there are no studies of what that particular drug has done here in Africa. It's a very common drug, actually, in our villages. If you just walk to an agrovet in Malinya, Senator Boni Halwale, and ask for Roundup, chances are you will get it. Yet, in other jurisdictions and other institutions, that particular product, there have been challenges and questions about what the approvals that have gone to having it used. Therefore, such institutions such as this, when we eventually put together one coordinating body for this, all these institutions, Madam Speaker, we shall be able to answer to these questions. As we know what, to put our best of scientists, Madam Speaker, to guide and tell us whether it is on the food or on the drug part, Madam Speaker, whether what we are eating is safe for consumption, and let them have debate in that particular institution. Let them challenge each other. Let them deny even certain certification. Let it be just one license eventually when we achieve that particular, so that it's known if you have a food and drug safety certification, you have gone through all the checks as a product, and you are able to be on the shelves and Kenyans can buy. I like Section 7 of the bill, Madam Speaker, where it speaks that there shall be a food and safety controller who shall be appointed by the President with the approval of Parliament. That's a step in the right direction, and I appreciate when certain bills comes in this particular format. I see still, you know, Madam Speaker, in the architecture of our Constitution, perhaps by error, Madam Speaker, sorry, Madam Speaker, I was speaking that because of just an act that either was omission on the part of the drafters of our Constitution, where you find certain offices have been drafted as needs to be approved by National Assembly, in other places by Parliament, that up to date, the only presidential appointees that this House approves are those that is provided in the Constitution, that they need to be approved by Parliament. And you find that there are legislation that still come to this House with the same provision. I like the fact that this particular provision has pointed out clearly that approval for the person who will serve as a food and safety controller will be by Parliament. So this lady or gentleman will be presented to both houses. Both houses will check into their competence, will hold them to account, and either approve or deny them an approval based on the competence that they present before our various committees. And that is a step in the right direction. That's what was envisioned, Madam Speaker, in the spirit of the 2010 Constitution. Of course, Section 8 goes on to list the qualifications of this particular, that they need to hold a degree in a discipline related to food safety and feed safety, very important, Madam Speaker, so that you don't have people filling it with cronies who don't understand what this is all about. I like the fact also that in Section 8.2, Madam Speaker, is provided that this person shall have shall serve a maximum of only 2 terms of 3 years. We need to standardize the public service, Madam Speaker. This business where I see, and this habit is mostly with our colleagues in the National Assembly, I saw last time, because of certain considerations, there are certain CEOs who serve 5 years, others serve 3 years in the public service. I think all studies have pointed us as a country, and we have come to the realization that if you are a CEO and within 3 years you are not able to effect the change that is desired in a particular institution, then we'd rather give the board the permission to either renew or terminate your contract. If you're competent, they give you a further 3 years. And by the time you finish 6 years in an institution, Madam Speaker, you have done all that you possibly could do in that particular office. This is not a private affairs issue, Madam Speaker. This is about public office, and that's why I like the proposal in this particular bill. In fact, I want to move, colleagues, that in this term of Parliament, let us standardize appointments into public offices. Keep it a maximum of 6 years, break it at year 3. If you're competent, we renew.